And so just to
thank you, robot lady.
Got it. I almost left the meeting. To begin, I want to start by saying that Anna and I join you this afternoon from our respective homes. Mine on the unceded and stolen territory of the Shawnee and Haudenosaunee peoples who maintained this land and water long before we called it Central Appalachia, and Anna on the lands of the Muskogee and Cherokee nations. Together, we make up the Dirt Podcast, which we have been producing since 2018. So we're actually about a week shy of our fourth anniversary of making the show. Yeah. And so our goal for today's time together is to walk you through the benefits of podcasting as a tool for outreach and pedagogy through an exploration of our process. We'll share our philosophy and approach to podcasting and walk you through the steps involved in taking an episode of The Dirt from an idea in our heads to an episode in your ears. So we'll pause for questions and observations about midway through, and then we'll do a demo recording, and Anna will provide a lens into the technical side of podcasting. So as a quick introduction to who we are, for those of you who may be unfamiliar, both in the room now and watching in the future, thank you. The Dirt Podcast is a weekly downloadable audio series hosted by myself, Amber Zambelli, and Anna Goldfield, who is also on your screen. And
I'm the other one.
And it brings the human story to thousands of listeners all over the world and from all walks of life. So our show takes a big tent approach to anthropology, by which we mean the overarching inquiry into all things human, so including human lives in the past. For our purposes, archaeology is nested within that as the study of materials from the archaeological record as a proxy for lived human experiences. So we tend to use the terms interchangeably in our show and in our work, but for the most part, we are talking about the archaeological corner of anthropology when we talk about anthropology on the dirt. So right now we enjoy about 14,000 downloads a month from all over the world, though primarily in North America. We also are lucky enough to be a part of fun social media communities through sort of the Dirt brand on Twitter and on Instagram primarily. And so that's us. But what brought us to a point where we're here in front of you today, wanting to evangelize about podcasting? Let's see if I can go with that. Yes. So why podcasts? Well, we could go on all day about the fun and exciting and sometimes poignant ways that we've made the medium of podcasting work for us. But it really comes down to this as being why podcasting does it for us. The first being accessibility. You see there's some caveats and accommodations that we got to talk about when it comes to accessibility, because we're looking at sort of two different meanings of the word, and both are brought to bear on podcasting. So for one thing, podcasts are free to consume and access sort of at their baseline. In them, you have an opportunity to meet people where they're at, both geographically and also in terms of exposure to content or expertise level, that you can make this accessible and digestible information. There's also the idea of accessibility as accommodating learners and audiences of all like needs and interests and strengths. And so there are, and we have educators in the room with us today. Like there are people for whom a non-visual medium is preferable, if not necessary, for learning and retention. So this is a way to present content for different learning styles and learning needs. You also have an audio medium is great for those who are not able to take in visual stimuli for whatever reason. That said, for those who can't take in audio stimuli, there are ways to bring that into podcasting. There are hurdles, but they can be overcome. So that's something that we will be the first to tell you is something that we always wanted, but didn't know how to do. And actually through the generosity and collaboration with OKPAN, we are beginning to have transcripts for our back catalog. And so that's something where having a transcript makes it more accessible to those who cannot listen to the episode or who listening they are not auditory learners, so they retain better through reading. But something else that you can do to help with that is to have other non-audio components, perhaps video, perhaps a reading list, which is what we try to do with the show. There's
we'll
also
get more into that.
Yeah, we'll get more into that. And there's also just the flexibility in terms of creation and consumption of podcasts. You can, as we've learned over 4 years, you can record with hosts in different places. I think we have recorded a total of 3 episodes ever with us in the same place.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
And also an audience can download and listen whenever. And at different speeds or listen to it multiple times. That's something that is a perk of the medium. Other things about podcasts that are really strong are the opportunity for a parasocial relationship. So you sort of have a friendship or affinity. You develop, the listener can develop trust with the hosts. That's something that in our current media climate, perhaps you can think of situations in which that trust or affinity has been kind of wielded against audiences or other populations. And so this is something that that we take very seriously. We take very seriously our role as someone's like ear friend or sort of big sibling or like mentor sort of relationship. That's something that makes this a powerful medium. Sort of dovetailing with that is the idea of storytelling that we that our societies, most societies really draw from storytelling and narrative, and that being able to participate in something and to see themselves in a story. And this is a really good opportunity to enter into a topic. Using that storytelling component is a way to introduce someone to something that you are interested in. That's this whole show is just us telling people about things that we find cool, and learning with them. And that is that's rather potent in sort of getting people invested and wanting to learn more. And also you can do very diverse topics. Because you are
evidenced by the Minnesota Corn podcast that was spamming you on Twitter.
No, I wish them the best. I may listen to it. And then also the other thing that makes podcasts as a great medium for content creation is it's relatively low cost to start up. You could, it is possible to record, if you have access to a smartphone. Like that is sort of the threshold, but we'll talk more about that when Anna walks us through sort of how the show works. So that's why we love podcasting. But what about the dirt itself? What about our show? So here's our approach to things. And I won't get too much into our philosophy, which pains me to say because I love talking about our philosophy. And so if you have questions about it, I would love to indulge you. But sort of Put simply, our philosophy is undergirded by the belief that no single human experience is like any other, is identical to any other. And this was as true in the past as it is now. So we aim to reflect that variability and demonstrate the many ways that archaeological approaches can access different aspects of different lives lived in the past through types of archaeological and anthropological material that we include in the show. So from our perspective, an academic background is not a requirement for learning about the human story. That is something that we have felt very strongly about from the outset. We deliberately produce content that features accessible and engaging language. We use a storytelling approach combined with explanations of any specialist terms or concepts that arise in a given episode. If we use jargon, we use it to introduce our listeners to that term within the jargon, define it, and then sort of not use it again. Just sort of like, if you continue reading about this, if you want to continue learning about this subject, you will encounter this term. This is what it means. This is what it's saying. And just sort of moving on from there. So additionally, and perhaps what is most apparent to listeners of our show, we aim to humanize the past and the people who study it. So that we are subjective, we are flawed, we are curious, and we are a product of our contexts. Like that is what we try to bring through everything that we do. And so part of that is using humor and a light approach when appropriate, and also having a scripted storyline for each episode that brings together a discussion of archaeological methods, application of theoretical frameworks, and interpretation, all of that of the past to tell human stories. And so as I said, like we, Anna and I, natural storytellers, humans, storytellers. We view the world through narrative, and we think that is the most powerful way to connect with our audience, and also for an audience to connect with content.
Yeah. Every person is the protagonist of
Anna
their
is
own
muted.
narrative. Oh,
Anna is saying something evocative in silence.
It doesn't say I'm muted.
Nope.
Oh, Catriota can hear me.
Nope.
Oh, well, everyone else can hear me except Amber. So.
Okay, great. I'm glad.
Okay. I was just going to say that the way that we view the world is that we are the protagonists of our own narrative, no matter what, because we can only experience the world through our own context and our own processing of all sensory information. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry for.
Great. I got it fixed. I can hear you now. I'm so sorry, everyone. As I'm just like,
we're professionals.
Yeah. Did you cover it? I didn't. I haven't read the transcript of what you were saying.
We're good. Go on to bullet point 2.
Okay, great. Something else that we can do through narrative is correct and counteract misinformation through storytelling, not just through a presentation of facts. I think that this is something that many people have seen presented to them in many ways, is that what changes someone's view or changes someone's position is less about facts and more about emotion and more about attachment and experience. And so this is something that I say that this is something that I am very passionate about, not as opposed to Anna, but this is something that I am particularly passionate about, because so much of what we encounter in the way of pseudoscience or pseudoarchaeology, they are at the heart, if not the surface, very violent rhetorics that people don't come to necessarily out of malice, but they lack. So an individual will lack information or lack context that might prevent them from coming there or help them come to a different perspective. And so what I have said this many times on the show, also in conversations, is that it doesn't do anyone any good to shout down at them or yell at them or just be like, well, this is how it is. But because what has happened is someone has failed them. Someone has either never told them sort of aspects of history or the sort of the construction and teaching of history or archaeology, or they were deliberately misled for some ulterior motive. And so that's something that we are trying to, just as we are trying to humanize the past and humanize the people who study it, we want to humanize and empathize with our audiences. And so that is something that we bring to what we do, and that's something that we look for in our guests, in collaborators, and it's something that we want to see more of. And one of the reasons why we're here today, because this is something that it is important to remember that not only is the world around you full of other people with interiority and experiences, but the past was also populated by people with interiority and experiences. And so that is what I have to say about why we make the show, and sort of how we make the show from a philosophical angle. But as for how we make the show from a sort of practical angle, we take it through a whole series. So the episode that you may listen to may have begun many months ago, and so this is so what you're looking at now is just sort of the like very highest level of bullet points of the steps involved in
soup to nuts.
Yep.
Yeah. So with that, we can stop sharing Amber's screen, or
No.
do you want me to take? Okay.
No, there's more.
Oh, right. Yep. So
if you want to walk through
yep,
sort of the steps of how we make the show, and then we'll talk about how we come up with the topics, and sort of walking through that.
I remember now.
Very excited about the next chapter.
Very tired. So topic selection comes first. There are a variety of ways that we come up with topics. We will get into that, but we try to have a production calendar that is at least a few months in advance, even if our own recording schedule doesn't always line up with that. Sometimes, everything is subject to change. This is an enterprise that we do sort of in addition to our day jobs. So sometimes life happens. And so that comes up with scheduling, which is we try to have a populated but not set in stone schedule for the upcoming weeks of podcasting. And one of the things that helps us do that is that we now do a monthly newsletter for Patreon members who support the show. And doing that helps us, a month in advance say, what are we going to do for each week of the coming month? And then sometimes that changes, sometimes it doesn't. We'll get into,
and we also schedule things using Asana, using the project management tool Asana. And so rather than just scheduling an episode, we also schedule out the windows within which we will be writing a script. We will be recording the script. We will be confirming a guest speaker. So they are, was it our most recent guest that we had on? We he reached out to us. We sort of started the conversation in late November for an episode that came out in February, because it was sort of, and so it is,
it's a process.
And so it is a process, and there is a fair amount of administrative labor that goes into it, that
for which I'm very grateful to Amber, because she does most of it.
And also I added this bullet into the slide. Oh, yeah. It's a huge part of the show, that because this is something that we have been doing about 48 weeks out of the year. We release weekly episodes. We also release 3 additional
Monthly.
episodes for
Seven
behind
a
the
month.
paywall on Patreon. And then we also do occasional bonus episodes. And so we do like a April Fool's episode, and we try to release one during our January hiatus. And so there's a lot of content that we create and a lot of content that we curate. And so having a schedule is a very important part of keeping it moving.
And that's something that we didn't mention, but when we started the show it started coming out in July of 2018. But actually what had happened was several months before that, we started planning the show and figuring out how to record and sort of beginning that process of scheduling. So if you do plan to start a podcast, keep that in mind, that to do it comfortably, to do it in a way that doesn't seem hectic and sort of frantic, it's good to start planning weeks in advance if you can.
Yeah, if not longer. And also that was a time that we spent. So that March to July of 2018 was spent identifying what we wanted to accomplish and coming up with a first draft of ways in which we think we might accomplish it. And so we have changed a lot over 4 years because we are constantly trying to get closer to achieving that goal efficiently. But also we had easily a list of 40 topics that we wanted to cover,
if not
before we started. So because you don't want to end up at a place where you're like, well, I've done 3, what's 4? And so we started our 2022 editorial calendar in like November of last year, of just like, so what are we going to do next year, and just start working on what we're going to do, because that takes some of that.
What haven't we done?
And that takes some of that pressure off of like, oh, we have to keep creating. And also we try to be quite deliberate in pushing ourselves geographically, pushing ourselves across time periods, across disciplines within anthropology, and start to think about like, who can we bring on as a guest? Who can we talk to? Where can we find new resources? Yeah. So that's all part of what even precedes opening a Google document and saying like, this is now episode 176. But we co-write and we co-research. There are some things that I will do. Well, so every October I do spooky episodes. It's Spooktober. I do all of those.
It's the most wonderful time of the year for me specifically.
And so there are topics that are more in my wheelhouse, topics that are more in Anna's wheelhouse, and so in some cases we will do the whole episode in one or the other, but usually it is collaborative, and that is what works for us. And we have had success both with writing a script itself and also with having a sort of more free-form conversation. I say that as the person who does not edit for content. That is Anna. So
that makes me sound good.
Go as greatest.
Because if you think it's all going well, then I've done my job.
And from there we record. Anna does the sound editing and the editing for content, and a fair amount of the post-production, and then we hand it off to the Archaeology Podcast Network. I should have said that at the top. We are a member of the Archaeology Podcast Network, and so there are some final touches that go on there, and then it is pushed onto the RSS feed. And beyond that, we do our marketing. But we do have, as of several months ago, we have a producer. Her name is Jenna, and she's exceptional.
Great.
And she helps us a lot with social media and engagement and outreach in that capacity. And so this has just been a labor of love. We have just been sort of on the grind and so we are really pleased with having, 5 digits of downloads every month.
And people coming to workshops like this,
and people doing this, like, it's really, really heartening and it's really fulfilling. And I would not have imagined that it would have been like this when we started 4 years ago. And it's we say, oh, it's been a lot of work and a labor of love, but we're still here telling you this is great. Like, this is sort of
it's worth it.
Like, certainly one of the, I think it is, apart from my dog, I think it might be my favorite thing about my life right now, of just sort of having this, this opportunity and this platform and this community that I'm a part of. But it's not about me. Let's talk about topics. So this is how we come to topics. We have sponsored topics. So our listeners will sometimes, we're pay to play. So there are listeners who can sponsor an episode. So
well,
they will say,
anyone can sponsor an episode. You can sponsor an episode and then not listen to it. That's
you
fine.
could not be a listener. We don't make you confirm that you'd listen. So we have people who will make a donation to the show. That's how we pay for it. That's how we pay for our hosting, our equipment,
and
books,
Patreon.
like any of that stuff. It is through donations. So someone will say, I want to have an episode about
veterinary care in the ancient world.
There we go.
That was one of them.
And then we will say, thank you for the money. We will do that.
And then we
do. And it's very fun. And our listeners come up with, and I guess potential non-listeners come up with like really interesting things that we would not have thought of, because they exist outside our brains. And so it's something that we really love. We also, as you can hopefully appreciate, after we talk about sort of our timeline for creating episodes, we don't always do super like ripped from the headlines episodes. Although we have done things that are like relevant issues or concepts or news items. Though the example that comes to mind is a few years ago, the remains of Casimir Pulaski were exhumed, were sort of excavated, and it was like through a skeletal analysis, it was seen that like, oh, Casimir Pulaski was intersex, and the popular media did a terrible job of representing what intersex is and conflating aspects of biological sex and gender. And we thought, well, here is a perfect opportunity for us to come in. And so we did an episode about intersex, and we didn't just
72, 79 in the 70s.
So a bit
a while ago,
a little earlier than like, but that's something that was like, here's an opportunity for us to talk about something extremely relevant. And I will argue that all of our episodes are relevant because they deal with like human experience and sort of the diversity of lived experiences. But this was something that was topical. We also try to pepper in a healthy dose of introductory topics that can be used by educators to supplement existing syllabi. We have a modular syllabus, sort of a guide
to update,
which it's a bit outdated, but that's fine. If you just learning about it now, you've got plenty to get through before we update it. Yep. And so that's a way for those who are teaching topics of anthropology, archaeology, or world history, or human geography. This is something to sort of pepper into your existing syllabus, or just a way to expose your students to more sources, more information.
And it takes that burden off of the educators of finding those sources and presenting them.
So we do the research, we do the writing, we do the creation, and we are very fortunate and honored that many educators trust us to assign episodes in our classes, and we'll sometimes see like pops of activity in our sort of like a smaller community in North Carolina. I'd be like, oh, and,
Somebody
and
assigned us over there.
and we'll see links through like LMS systems. So somebody on Canvas or Blackboard has put us up, and there will be like a burst of activity. And then also we just do things that we like, and we do things that are silly. We did an episode that we called Fish People, because it was just something where we were like really deep into a editorial meeting. And we're like, I don't know. And it was like toward the end of the year. And I was like, and it was just like some very silly joke of just like, like Anna was talking about
I
something
had brought
specific,
up a specific site,
described it poorly, and was like, they look like fish people. And I was like, fish people, and just put it in there. And it was something in the cell, and we moved on with our lives. And then we eventually got to November, and fish people was in our, and I was like, I'm leaning into it. We're doing fish people. And it ended up being like one of the like more fun episodes, because we managed to like make it work. So I recommend Fish People as an episode.
If nothing else, for the musical number at the end.
Yeah. We also do just things that interest us. I like to bring, I've talked about the Arabian Peninsula, and talked about sort of topics in Near Eastern history, like ancient history and art history, like things that like I studied in school and enjoy. And we talk about Neanderthals and things that Anna has like actual,
I like food,
hard
the
won
Middle
experience.
Ages. Oh, well,
yeah.
that too.
So and so that's something that we try to complement those and round those out with just like looking at a map and being like, where haven't we talked about?
Where do we see blank spots?
And pushing us to find, to learn about those things and to share that.
Looking at
so we've talked
most of Asia.
And so we've talked on some of these things already, but something else that is relevant to the issue, the matter of us saying like we feel like fortunate that people trust us, is that we take the research process very seriously, and we take our writing very seriously, even though we make lots of silly jokes and puns. This is something that like we try to
you can do both.
We evaluate our sources, and we are quite discerning in what we will incorporate. And also we try wherever possible to by wherever possible, wherever we have access to sort of context. And that's something that I try to bring up often in thinking about positionality and thinking about like,
who's this for?
Who like what is this content written for? Who performed this work? What was going on, like sort of in their lives and their professional lives in the discipline, and to show that this is something that this is an aspect of science, of sort of it is not. We are trying to get closer to. We are trying to understand better, and so it is iterative, and it evolves, and our understanding evolves. And as we gain new data, as we learn new things, as we incorporate new voices, the narrative will change. And so we try to present this as we are sharing a point on the sort of the continuum of interpretation. Like we did not reach the end. We didn't find an answer. We have an interpretation and a position, and it will continue. And so we try to set that up in how we talk about it. And also we try, as part of trying to make ourselves as accessible as possible to as many audiences as possible, we try to find open access materials, which I will just put a point on to say, like, we are aware that there are limitations to like who gets to do open access work and who gets to make things freely available. Where we often will try to have like if we have PDFs, because we've got like JSTOR access or whatever, people have reached out to us and say like, can you provide me some sources? And I say, yes, here they are. And so we try to toe that line between like copyright law and like freely accessible information. But we also try to have a range of sources. So everything from sort of pop sci articles in Live Science or National Geographic, Atlas Obscura, up to a scholarly monograph or a peer-reviewed journal article. So we try to run that gamut so that people can continue learning after listening to us, or instead of listening to us if they prefer, and that this is an entry point to further study. And we always make those available on our website, and then also in the show notes themselves. So if all you have is sort of Apple Podcasts on your phone, the resources, like the lists are there, and you can just like go to Safari and you can just read it from there. So that is, in so many words, what we do. And so I'm going to take down my screen, and you can look at our face. You can gaze upon our visages. And if anybody has questions right now, we would love to entertain them.
Love to hear them, entertain them, and entertain them.
Entertain them. Great.
And you can either use the hands up function
Hands
or
up.
just unmute yourselves. Everybody's good?
No questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Doing great. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
got a question. Hello.
Hi, love the show very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
They're like, can you put more of those? Those are awesome. So thank you all. Is there any particular kind of medium that you all would prefer listeners to be listening on, whether it's Spotify or Apple Music? Is one of those or the other affect whether you all get support, or just one that you all prefer listeners to be listening to?
That's a great question. Partially because I don't have a complete answer. So because we are on a network now, we don't see as much of what that means.
No, we can't directly access our stats.
Yeah, so we don't see that, but the more people who subscribe and listen on any given platform, the more likely we will show up in search results for future listeners, and the more likely that the algorithms within those respective applications will suggest us to potential future listeners. So from where I stand as a private citizen, I don't really care. Like if people just want to like get a RSS feed and like put it into like something, they put it on your Neil Young Pono device, or like your like that. I don't care. That's
what's
fine.
happening.
But the one thing that also helps is the only place that I've ever seen sort of meaningful space for like reviews and critiques has been on Apple Podcasts. And so that sort of seems to be that one seems to matter more, again,
especially like in terms of reviews and stars.
And so that's something that it doesn't affect us from a perspective of if you listen to the show now, you'll know that there are ad spots. That's through the network. That's not through us.
Nothing to do with us.
And the play sort of downloads and plays are all on aggregate. So if we wanted to like really dig into them, we could see who's driving traffic from where. But the fact that every one of those podcast apps, podcatchers, uses an RSS feed, it's a matter of how many hits were on the RSS feed, which is the same. So it's just sort of, if it gets out there, it gets out there, and that's what matters to us.
Which is why we're just constantly saying, tell friends about us, leave reviews and stars.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there are plenty
really
of like
much as we can do.
Sort of political and like economic positions to have on any given like podcatcher or sort of the streaming
or just
service.
Like whether it works good.
That is also an issue, just like
Apple
utility
Podcasts
is a problem. But I don't have we found out that we're on like Audible, and we're like, we didn't even know that was a thing. But it's just
Amazon. I think we're on Amazon.
Question
mark.
But that sort of stuff that's kind of beyond us in a few different axes. But thanks for the question. I hope that's like illuminating in some way, even if it is sort of to say like, doesn't matter. Like that's
It's a sort of non-answer answer.
No,
Yeah.
it was wonderful. Everything I needed. Thank you all so much.
Oh, great. Oh, love to hear
Perfect.
that. We are on Amazon. Thanks.
Hey,
Great.
thanks.
Okay. So Sharon.
Jeff Bezos listens to us. No, he doesn't. He's not invited.
Sharon.
Okay, so perfect. So first off, I want to say this is an amazing discussion about podcasts, honestly.
Oh gosh, thanks.
I really have learned quite a bit. I enjoy podcasting because I love to be out in the garden. So I've been out there today planting potatoes and stuff. And
Taters.
taters. Yep. And anyways, so, but my question is, I think, especially listening to the background, the thought that goes into it, I totally get that it's a labor of love. I totally get that part of it, that it's a labor of love. What I wonder about is you guys have other jobs, you have other life activities, like necessities like shopping and cooking and cleaning house and toilets and just the necessities of life. And then you're doing this as a labor of love. It certainly seems to me like it's a significant chunk of time to produce the type of content with the mindset and the philosophy that you have to hold true to that, to do the editing. How much time, how much of a part-time labor of love is this? I know my garden can be a full-time job. I love it. It's fine. But maybe you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you very much.
Great.
It's really nice when someone realizes that.
Yeah. And that,
it just doesn't happen.
yeah. And I think, before I actually answer your question, there are certainly people out there, some of whom review podcasts, what feels like for a living, that don't remain cognizant of that fact of just that this is
that we are two human people doing a thing.
Yeah. And it's so the biggest, the one of the biggest things that I've learned over the past 4 years is I have developed a sense of awe and respect for anybody that pursues any creative endeavor or intellectual endeavor outside of what they are being paid to do. And so this feels like a deflective answer, but making the show takes up as much time as we have to give it. So
I get it.
I can break down some of the parts. So for example, sound editing, since I've been doing this for 4 years now, I've gotten a lot faster at it. Now, I would say that it takes me time and a half to what we've recorded. So if we record for an hour, it takes me about an hour and a half to get through all of that for content. And I will show you how I do that. But but script writing, sometimes it depends on how well we know the topic. If it's something that is totally in my wheelhouse, I can sit down and write a script in a couple hours. But Amber and I also work very, very differently. Like Amber tends to go a lot more sort of research. I tend to research while I'm writing. I think Amber does a lot of sort of pre-research and then,
and I get
script.
Very in the weeds. I also it's like doing any kind of collaborative intellectual work is so it's very curious because you learn more. Like I've known Anna for 18 years, and
which helps the process.
Which also helps that we just know each other well. So we have a very sort of safe and comfortable working relationship. But also you sort of you live in your own mind and you do work at the rate that you do it. And I didn't know that it was possible to do things as quickly as Anna does. And so I read, so just the way that my brain works, I read rather slowly on sort of the spectrum of quickness of reading. And I write, I'm Anna's very good at just like banging out a draft and then cleaning it up. I agonize over, so like when I finally have it written, it's much closer to its final product because so much of it
beautiful shining gem, and mine's like a half-formed clump of dirt.
And like we both get there in our respective processes, and so it's something that I will take like 8 to 12 hours to write, and like I will read for a couple weeks, like if I, and just sort of like in my free time. And so it's just a different way of doing things, but also that's a product of the sorts of topics that we take on. I too like topics that, or aspects of shows that involve a lot more theory or philosophy or sort of context. That's the stuff that I take on, whereas Anna looks at a lot of like methods and analysis, and sort of like interpretation of data, so sort of collection interpretation of data, whereas I am focused on sort of the substrate within which all of this stuff is created. And so I think that that makes for a very balanced show and a balanced approach to content. But it's also it's really convenient for me that Anna does these other aspects of the show, but so I can just sort of think my thoughts and like feel things out. And also I have my professional experience is in sort of operations and administrative things. And so there's stuff that's much more natural for me. And so we're very complementary styles, but also there have been times in like over the past couple of years that we have had to take some time off. We're currently in one of those times. So something like Anna moved across the country. That put a dent in our time. Last year, I lost my grandmother. And so I was I was involved in her caregiving towards the end of her life. And so it was just something that didn't work. And like, we're very open about our like mental and physical health. And so there are times that we've just had to, we're fortunate that we have 4 years of episodes so that we can re-release things, or especially things from before we were on the Archaeology Podcast Network, because that stuff lives on, the first 50-ish episodes live on SoundCloud. 54. They weren't fully integrated. And so if you go to like Spotify to see it, like you won't see those episodes.
Won't find
so
those,
we can kind of throw them out there. So it is something that because it is not the thing that gives us the material support that is required to survive in our society. Like this is something that does sometimes get set to the side, but we have real understanding listeners, and that's part of that parasocial relationship. Is that sense of
thank goodness
we're really lucky that we have a relationship with our audience that is one that they're like, oh, I hope everything's okay, and not just like, I pay you nothing, and yet you don't give me like that. But also the people who do pay us, like they're like really
very, very forgiving.
I think we exploit that. Like it feels like sometimes we take advantage of that. But very long way of saying that it is all worth it, because we both come to this body of work and this discipline and our respective philosophies towards education and knowledge production and access through our own experiences. And we want to be like, we want to provide for others things that weren't necessarily provided to us, or conversely, things that were provided to us that we felt were transformative, that we want to be able to provide for others. And so this is something that, I said, this is like one of the best parts of my life right now, because this is something that I've spent the last few years like in like sort of corporate-y, drudgery kind of jobs that are not in any way fulfilling. And so this is something that feeds me in a way that like it gives me some, it doesn't give me something that I can pay my cell phone bill with, but it gives me something that makes it okay that I have to do spreadsheets and send emails in order to pay my cell phone bill. So again, very long answer. I don't know if that is.
Yeah, the short answer is I really just don't know how many times on average it takes a week. It's variable and it's
Yeah.
okay. Right.
Yeah.
I get
And
it.
so, yeah. So there are some weeks like when we have an interview
Of
and,
those.
we love those because it's sort of like a couple hours. Except like, we read Sam Redmond's book. So that took a little longer, but like it's something that it's just that's something where it's just like, we don't know. Tell us.
Yeah.
And so those are
And
fun.
they do.
But yeah, so it does as time as we have to give it. And really, I stopped when we first started. I was like, I'm going to track my hours. And after a while, I'm just like, why? Because I'm not being compensated for them. And it's not like, it's not me sort of like it's a different relationship. So it's a different relationship to time. It's a different relationship to like output. And so I like divorcing it from like actually recording the time made it much more pleasurable because it stopped being work because I wasn't trying to time keep it.
And time tracking is work too, and it takes time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah.
Why? What value is this adding to me?
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. I appreciate your answer and your honesty with this. It's really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. One more from Kat.
One more. Yeah.
Hi. I'll add to the accolades as well. What a fantastic show. You know, I love it. I'm embarrassingly grateful that it exists. I get through a couple of episodes on my commute to uni every day, and it really gets me excited. Thank God, because something should. But this is to sort of jump off the research element of what you were talking about. I don't know if there's still any topics that you can't kind of find a way into from what you're already familiar with or confident with, but if if you are approaching a topic that's quite new to you, how do you go about it? You know, how do you frame a kind of research question for yourself? Do you just chuck keywords in Google, or are you going straight to JSTOR? What's the approach?
I can tell you what I do.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you what I do.
Yeah. Well, okay. First of all, sort of jointly, if it's a topic that we don't know much about, but also feel that we are not the best people to sort of originate the discussion, we will try to find someone who is studying that and who can talk to us about it, so that it doesn't have to be information that we're giving our listeners like fourth or fifth hand, having learned it from sources about sources. But what I will often do, and when I was teaching, I would tell my students this and they went, is go to Wikipedia, because on Wikipedia, you can scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there will often be bibliographic resources with links. And so you can check out some of those links. It's just like a place to start. If you see a link that is clearly a DOI, like scholarly article, click on that. That's a place to get started. If there's nothing there, then yeah, I do tend to do some light Googling, and try to get somewhere. It usually, because we've been doing this for so long, I'm at the point where sort of like, I know it when I see it, like I know what the hook for the episode will be. And so I'm not sure I can sort of articulate what that process looks like, because it has now become just something that is. But I'm gonna hand it over to Amber, because like my answer is not terribly helpful because it's kind of specific to me, but those are the main sources that I start with, and with the goal of getting to, reputable sources.
Look, honestly, that's very encouraging, actually,
Okay,
that there
good,
may
yeah.
come a point where I look at something and go, no, I can do this. I'm familiar with this. I know the angle here.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
so something else that we do that is also specific to us is we are so our undergraduate degree is in classical and Near Eastern archaeology, which is is more informed by sort of art and languages, and it's less. There's a lot more qualitative study and less quantitative study. So, but we went to a great school. And we went to a school with that's
great.
Like
Had a great time.
No, I'm sorry. Like we went to a school with a fair amount of prestige, is what I'm saying. Because I'm getting to a point. Like that's not. And then we
not just bragging.
We each went to graduate schools that have a fair amount of prestige. I did not finish a degree at mine, but I stayed at the university. And so I was in Near Eastern Studies, but I knew the anthropology department. I knew other departments on campus. Anna finished a degree and also has a wide network and community of fellow
Deliberately
students.
cultivated. Yep.
Because Anna went to one of a few small schools in the Boston area and took classes at a few other small schools in the Boston area.
Small. I went to BU.
And so we have a pretty strong network of people that we know in terms of their character also, because that's something else that we don't shy away from on the. I certainly don't shy away from on the show. Not that Anna does, but just talking about you have aspects of personality in the discipline and behave patterns of behavior, and so that's something that we don't wish to platform or there are also you are a patron of our show. You will know that there are some episodes that there are some topics that we have not talked about on the main feed, because doing so would put us in a position where we would need to talk about the work of someone that has perpetrated harm against people in our own lives, and also people just in general. And so that's something that we take into consideration. But that's we have an episode that's coming up that was a promoted episode, a sponsored episode. And I was like, I don't know anything about this, but
I know someone on Twitter.
Well, this is a separate episode.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the sci-fi one. Never mind.
No.
There's
another episode that we have coming up, but someone who a professor from our undergrad institution, who I happen to know on Twitter, was teaching a class on that. And so I DM'd him, and he sent a bunch of sources of just if you're doing an introductory topic on this, do this. And so having a network of just people that don't necessarily want to be on the show or don't necessarily do something, they don't necessarily do research that's on what we want to do, but they know the foundational texts, they know sort of trends and things like that.
Give us a little push.
But the other thing that makes going to Wikipedia or Googling really good for science communication and basic outreach is we've been doing this for 4 years. We've learned a little bit about a lot of things, and we know more about lots of things than the average person because we research a different topic every week. We spend an incalculable amount of our lives learning things.
No way.
So if I go to Google and I look up something and I see what's been done on it, what's been, there are, something that comes to mind is the episode that we did a while back on Rapa Nui. So what folks call Easter Island. That's something that I didn't know much about it. And but I wanted to, and then it turns out lots of white people in the Anglosphere don't know anything about it, so the bar is low. So that's something else that has gotten easier over time, is that I don't need to know a whole lot, because we can't get it, because every corner, every little corner and crevice of the discipline is very deep, and there's a lot of work to be done. And there's a lot of work that has been done, but that's not what we're trying to do. We aren't trying to be experts. We're trying to explore. And so those are the episodes where we say, we're new to this. We're exploring this. We're learning this. And that's a way that we can talk about how we choose our sources and how we pursue things. And then that sets us up for those those occasional moments where I do an episode on historical linguistics and I'm like, I hate this. I wanted to throw up while writing the episode. I feel so dumb. And then someone who is a professor of linguistics reaches out to us and was like, do you want to talk about it? And then we have someone tell us. And like, that's the sort of thing of like trying to walk the walk of just sort of like, this is how we learn. Like we explore, we put ourselves out there. And I think that the trust that our audience has in us extends to the point of like, if we get something wrong, we will tell them. And if
We've gotten some lovely emails.
And like as things develop, like we will share more as we learn more. Everything from like the recent additions to like the human evolution story, where it's not like we missed it, we didn't know it, like no one knew it. So things like that, and so that this is something that isn't static, and that's a little bit deceptive. And I'm gonna go, I've been thinking about this the past couple of days. I went to a talk about something and just like looking at sort of these sort of more playful forms. So the specific talk was on zines, and looking at sort of these playful forms of like
sharing information
and sort of knowledge repositories and like effective like all of those things it's more than just information in an audio file. And it's something that is a bit more it's a little bit more ephemeral than sort of the way it's like recorded and housed leads you to think. And so like trying to figure out like how do we effectively like grow and learn more. But that's something that, because we're doing podcasts and because we're defining the terms of what we do every week, we can say, this is what it is. And like, this is how it works. And this is what like this is how we make the show. If you are creating content for other people, sort of to be published in a magazine or on someone's blog or something, like you might be inheriting a set of expectations and sort of norms around like, is this expected to be final, which is sort of a false like a thing that can't, like that's not how knowledge works.
No.
But something like when you are creating your own content, that's when you can say like, I am learning. We could, if we wanted, pull an episode to be like, well, that's wrong, and just pull it down. And so that's something that we could do. And so that's very liberating. And the sort of like, when you are new to a topic, own it and just say like, I'm new to this. And there's someone who knows something. And if there isn't someone who knows something, then you are like very close to being the person who knows the most about it. And so that's
a reassuring position to be in.
Yeah.
That is incredibly encouraging. Thank you.
Google, Wiki, and just like trawl through people you know.
And I would encourage folks who are interested in cultivating a network of people who know things, follow us on Twitter and see who we follow, because we are constantly just sort of like finding people and going, ooh, talk to you later. Not in a creepy way, just okay, y'all want to make a podcast? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, great. Let me share my screen. Do you have your Google Drive open, bud?
Oh, this is real. I'm not ready.
This is exactly what it's like to record an episode. With me. Okay. So on my screen is a little mock recording script that I worked up. Am I correct? Is that in fact on the screen that everyone can see? Oh God, what's happening? Yes. Oh no. Well, I clicked a window. Okay, we're good. We're good. All right.
Okay, Anna.
Yes.
It's it's not letting me into, can you share it with me?
Oh
with
my
you
God.
personally? I'm sorry.
Did I write
It
this in
won't-
my personal Gmail? No.
No, I just can't access our, just share it with me. Share it with Amber.
That
There's
one?
my
Or-
email. Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
Let me
Give
just go
everybody a
ahead
chance
and-
to read it.
Sorry.
Yep, thanks.
Sorry.
This one, would you like me to read it into the record? It's not like you couldn't guess. Okay. That's why I didn't have it open. I'm so sorry. Okay, great.
It's an authentic experience that we're, oh, there you are. There's your little pink circle. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. So a couple of things I want to point out about the script first before we get into it. The way that we record our sources is so we do all of our writing in Google Docs, and we record sources in comments that are directly linked to the thing that they're talking about. And then one of us, when the episode goes out, will compile those resources and import them into the show notes so that anything that we read to learn about this stuff, you can read too. Okay, so we record using Audacity, and that is a free downloadable software. It has a couple of, so the reason that there are lots of apps and recording software that you could use, and this is very much a preference thing. We use Audacity partially because it's free, but also because of a couple of features it has that I will explain. So the way that I have it set up right now is how Amber and I typically record with guests. Normally, if it's just the two of us, Amber will record her own audio on Audacity. I will record mine, and then she will upload that to our Google Drive. But rather than having us wait
Rather
while
than making you sit
Watch.
through exactly what we had to sit through as I like accessed our Google Drive, which I would do again to get a
this was the simpler way
this
to
is
show.
humbling.
Yeah. So there are lots of tutorials online for how to do specifically this, set it up so that it will record from both my microphone's audio and the audio coming through my computer, which will be Amber, which will record on separate tracks. I'm not going to explain that here because it'll take a lot of time and sort of fiddling, but please feel free to contact me after this or, just email the dirt and
Or
and
my
I'm-
personal email.
I mean, people are welcome to email me specifically at aegoldfield@gmail.com. That's fine.
Okay.
Now we're even. Or the Dirt Podcast, and I will happily walk you through how this is set up. So we have Audacity. The important thing when I start Audacity specifically is to leave about 5 seconds of blank. When I click record, leave about 5 seconds of empty space so that any ambient noises in the rooms that we're recording in can be picked up, and then later I can snip them out. So, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Usually Amber will count us in. Do you want to count us in just for?
Oh, can I do it as obnoxiously as I normally do it?
Absolutely. Please do.
1, 2, 3.
Okay. So Audacity is tootling along. There are my little waveforms. They are small, which means that I'm going to move the mic a little closer to myself. Here we go. Okay. Hello, and welcome to The Dirt, a podcast about archaeology, anthropology, and our shared human past. I'm Anna.
And I'm Amber, and we are doing a workshop. The topic for this script was inspired by Anna doing some light Googling and stumbling across the following headline: Archaeologists to scan the Great Pyramid of Giza with cosmic rays. Okay, so couple of notes here. We cannot blame the good folks over at phys.org, where this story was published, for wanting to attract clicks with a headline.
Yeah, and so I'm going to pause right here just to head back over to Audacity so that we can see that Amber's track did in fact record on, and it records as a stereo track, but you can always just get rid of one of those in Audacity. Okay. But the words cosmic rays and any mention of the pyramid at Giza is treading perilously close to attracting the kinds of space weirdos who might misinterpret this story, which is actually really cool. So here's the breakdown.
Okay, wait. What are cosmic rays besides a collective of super chilled out dudes named Raymond?
Yeah, a lot of the dumb jokes are not off the cuff. They are scripted. A lot of them are.
Some of them I refuse to read. And I think it stays in the script.
You throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Cosmic rays are high energy protons and atomic nuclei that constantly stream into Earth from the sun and also from outside the solar system and outside the galaxy. When those particles smash into our atmosphere, they break into secondary particles, and those are called muons. So muons, I know, isn't that cute? Muons. That's what cows do every day. I'm going to get my muon. So muons are unstable. They break down fractions of a second after they are created.
Oh, same. Big same.
But they travel at such a high velocity and they're so small that they can penetrate a surface really, really deeply in those milliseconds before they decay. So you can fire muons at something and capture how deeply they penetrate and then get a digital image of that. You can have equipment that registers that signal, and you can get a digital image pretty far into the interior of very, very solid objects like a pyramid.
Oh, okay. So great. Thank you for that breakdown. So I'm going to
Dr.
quote
Breakdown.
here.
It's me.
I'm going to quote here from our pal, Evan Gao, which is it, Anna?
Gao.
Our pal, Evan Gao at phys.org. Quote, muon tomography is used in different applications, like examining shipping containers for contraband. Scientists in Italy are working with muon tomography to image the inside of the volcanic Mount Vesuvius for contraband, hoping to understand when it might erupt again.
Yeah, contraband lava. Magma.
Oh boy, you're going to get the volcanologist on us. The Explore the Great Pyramid mission uses muon tomography to take the next step in imaging the Great Pyramid. But EGP says that their muon telescope system will be 100 times more powerful than previous muon imaging, end quote.
Fabulous job. Okay, so now we stop. And now we save. Save the file.
And so what normally happens here is I save it and then my Google Drive doesn't sync. And 3 days later, Anna's like, can I have that file? And I'm like,
yeah, that's not your fault. Okay, I have saved the file to my desktop just for fun.
Yeah, and so you will have heard, dear listeners,
We've
that
flipped some stuff.
Yeah, that we have clunky diction or words come out in the wrong order and we have to start over. I don't know how to say names.
I mean, a lot of times
some jokes don't land. And so there's right for things to cut. Sometimes there will, I'm surprised that
there's been no dog action.
I'm surprised the third mic wasn't in here. And you know, sometimes they sometimes mail comes while and then it's just lots of sometimes
my cat screams.
Lots of sharp little
spikes
blips on our side. So so that's what it usually sounds like when we get started.
Okay. So now I've gotten rid of one of Amber's tracks because I don't need two of her simultaneously.
Some people like that.
That's great. I don't need the extra data. Okay. Then, so I'm going to minimize this window for now. Then I've got, so up in Audacity, I'm going to go to File and File, Chains, Apply Chain. Now, a chain in Audacity is something that you set up beforehand, which is a series of actions. So a series of adjustments to various components of the sound. So, for example, instead of me going in every single time and adjusting what's called normalization, which is like minimizing the differences between highs and lows in volume on each track. So there are a number of sort of modular bits and pieces, but in Audacity, you can string them all together. You can tell the program when I say modify this. I want you to do this, 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 and this. So dirt standard edits is what I have called this particular chain. And so I click apply to current project, and you can see it's applying equalization and amplify and compression. So these are all the things that I would have had to go in and individually do. Audacity is really great because there's a pretty short amount of sort of short learning curve to be able to kind of put all that together. Okay, now for the other feature of Audacity that is very good. I'm going to, can I just make this window bigger? Sorry. I can see. Okay. Now I'm going to take, so this is the portion of the recording before either of us said anything. That is any noise in the room that, like an air conditioner going or neighbor dog barking, things like that. You can go to Effect, Noise Reduction, and you tell Audacity get noise profile. That means that Audacity will pick up any sounds that happen in that empty space. And then you can click on the whole track and you say, Effect, sorry, Noise Reduction, and you say, do it. And it will apply that and snip out any little sort of humming noises.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you could see, but some of those little
I have a
blips
little
on
mini fridge under my desk. And that's something before my computer completely shed its moral coil, you would have to cut out just like it getting ready to take off. Oh, that little fan. So those sorts of things. And just sort of HVAC systems, all of that stuff. But also squeaky chairs, distant barks.
This office chair has gotten so squeaky. It's not helpful. Like, now that my day job is also recording stuff, it's not tenable. Okay, so I now have 2 tracks that have been cleaned up in terms of the sound quality. So now I'm going to snip out this track and get rid of this and open a new Audacity window and just paste that in. And then I can export each of these as an MP3 to my desktop. Save. I mean, this isn't very thrilling, but this is what we do. Fortunately, it was a short clip. This usually takes much longer. Okay, there's that. No, I do not wish to save it. It has been exported. Okay, and then there's this file, export as MP3, W2, save. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. I usually make these noises while I'm actually doing it too. So authentic. All right, so we've got our MP3s. No, okay. Sorry, let me move everybody over. Whee! All right, so now I'm just gonna make a new folder. One of the things that baffled us briefly when we were very first starting in the dirt, like
getting the sound to work.
Yeah, well, besides getting the sound to work, sorry, workshop, was understanding that, so this file that I've highlighted here is the Audacity file, and that has to be accompanied by the folder that has its data. So if they're not living together, when you try to open the Audacity file, it just goes, oh, I can't find it, and throws up an error message. And there was a lot of just like almost crying and Googling and actually crying and Googling before we figured out that was the issue. So now that I have all of the pieces of Amber and my audio, I'm going to go open GarageBand. This is the other software that I use to make the show. It comes along with the Mac operating system.
Yeah, and also while GarageBand is loading, we can talk about our equipment.
Oh yeah, sure.
We each have a Shure brand mic. We
We
recently
sure do.
we recently got new mics. That
Oh God.
that
I'm gonna have to
plugs
give mine
into-
back at some point.
I got new mic. It plugs into this box. What is this box, Anna?
It's an
Is it a
interface.
preamp? It's an interface.
It's not. It's technically not a
Okay.
preamp. It's an interface
Okay.
that changes audio signal to digital signal and then feeds it into computer.
Yeah. And then that plugs in to my MacBook Pro.
Not sponsored.
And oh, goodness, no. And I'm like, that's the extent of the equipment that we use.
And
we
the cables
started
and
out-
whatever.
We started out with like maybe like a $35 mic. And I mean, it did sound like we were yelling like at the end of like a long hallway in an elementary school, but
It wasn't great. You can go to SoundCloud and listen to episodes like 1 through 6 for that
Yeah.
experience.
But also we know folks that do recordings in the field that just
Mhm.
use like a basic, like a cheap lav mic, like a lavalier mic, the type that you clip on,
Clippy mic.
and they just plug it into their phone and they can you just record voice notes basically.
Mhm.
And you can use those files. So we like it is it's an inexpensive entry point for using. Now, one has to have access to a smartphone or a computer to do that. But
Mhm.
If you are affiliated with an educational institution in some capacity, you may very well find that those are available. Something that will work is available to you.
Yeah, often, especially schools that have a journalism program or things like that, will have sort of studios where you can go and record. Okay, so I've got GarageBand open. I need a total of 3 audio tracks, 1 for the theme song, 1 for Amber, and 1 for me. So I'm going to make those. Okay, so for the theme song, first of all, I'm going to turn the volume of it down. And then I have a file full of dirt sounds, a folder full of dirt sounds. And so intro music, bloop, drag and drop. Okay. I'm going to want to play this, and I think I need to do the share sound thing, don't I?
Yes.
Share computer sound. Okay. Okay. So there it is. And that was made by me in GarageBand using my computer keyboard as a keyboard. It's like a piano keyboard, and just going boop, 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 boop. This is before I knew how to do.
Also, Anna has training in music.
Yeah, I yeah.
Just
I have
not
a lot of music. I have a lot
computer
of music
keyboard.
back. No, I didn't. I never took computer keyboard lessons.
Oh, you didn't have- That's just fine. There are other
not
people here.
different
I don't
from
need to. It's fine.
yeah, okay. So sorry, I'm going to move everybody over again. The other 2 are for me and Amber, and for that I'm going to use specific filters that GarageBand provides, and that is the narration vocal. Did you know I do all this, Amber? Have you seen me
In
do
a
this before?
sense.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sat next to you on a long train ride once, and you were doing it. So
Oh yeah. Okay. And so what I don't want, so if I were to just leave this filter as it is, there is for some reason a whole bunch of reverb and ambiance that is part of that. Sorry, I had to minimize everybody. Amber, if you're going to make facial expressions, tell me what they are.
okay.
So I'm gonna
audio description. Amber
Yeah.
is smiling.
Okay, great. So I'm going to turn both of those down. So I'm going to do that to this one as well. Boop. And that just makes it sound like we're not in some sort of cavernous room. Okay. And then I'm just going to go to my desktop and grab those files. And the great thing about GarageBand is the interface is very user-friendly, and a lot of it's just very drag and drop. Okay, so we can see the waveforms. And so I'm going to listen to this real quick because I think this is when I start saying hello. Yeah, that's me. Okay, so I'm going to snip out this bit. gonna move this over. And then the rest of editing is really just lining up tracks and then listening through to everything and snipping out anything that I think needs to go. So oh, okay, so there's too long a pause there. So I move things down. And then I can make adjustments to the volume of each track and go through and make changes as I need to. So I'm not going to do a full edit of this for content, but for example, if I wanted to get rid of this space between these two things that I'm saying. So if I wanted to get rid of that, I could do that. I could, oh no, let me click. I can make little splits here, snip that out, and just drag the two clips together. So for now, I'm going to leave it there. So basically, once all of that editing is done, I export the file as a WAV file. Those tend to be higher quality. I used to export them as MP3s when we were putting them on SoundCloud, but since we're on the APN, they go to friendly sound engineer Chris Webster as WAV files, and then he does the rest. So the rest of everything is just sort of tweaking sound, cleaning things up. I now know, like by sort of year one, I had figured out exactly what the waveform of Amber saying looked like. I know what Calypso's barks look like. So it's, it's really fun. It does sometimes take a lot of time. And again, I glossed over a few sort of very nitty gritty parts. If you are interested in learning more about sound design, sound editing, things like that, happy to talk you through it. Just let me know. But I figured I'm towing the line between extensive and boring. So, yeah, and so I'm gonna leave that there, and we can do some final questions if anybody has them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm
Cool.
glad you found it not boring.
Yay. And this will all be, it's going to be recorded and available through OKPAN, so you can watch it all again.
Ooh, that's a great question. So GarageBand is on Mac. If you have Windows, does that work, or is another program needed?
GarageBand is proprietary to Mac. I don't actually know if there's a PC version. There might be, but there are tons of audio software that are very similar to GarageBand in terms of what they do, that are available for PC. The one that I use in my professional day job is Pro Tools, which is really, really good. It also does a lot of things you don't need it to do. And it's kind of like the Adobe Creative Suite of sound editing in that it's really expensive and kind of specialized. So depending on your needs and what you want out of your editing software, Audacity could be just fine. I know a lot of people who do podcasts who just use Audacity. I specifically use GarageBand because I like that filter, that narration voice filter. And I have a lot of experience. Like I did a lot of music recording stuff in high school and college using GarageBand. So I was already really familiar with it. So it's sort of friendly for me. But no, you don't specifically need GarageBand. What'd you just drop in the
I just dropped a link to a roundup of
perfect.
Of GarageBand alternatives for Windows that don't suck, according to this.
Thanks. Producerhive.com.
Yeah. So they're digital audio workstations. So there are things that are very low cost or like freemium, but something like Ableton or Pro Tools is a very popular.
But it's
option.
also like that's like sort of higher tier in terms of expense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's it. Actually, Amber earlier mentioned something about using a lav mic and your mobile phone. There is also a phone app called Anchor, and that allows you to, you do have to have a smartphone, but it allows you to record, edit, and export to a feed an episode. And it also, I think, if this is part of what you want to do, I think you can monetize your podcast through Anchor. Like you can do ads.
I'm not very familiar with that at all.
No, me neither, but I know it exists.
Yeah, but it does exist, and
and that's what we know. Oh, any other questions, production or otherwise?
Ooh.
What is one
thing you wished you had known before doing your first episode?
I wish I had known that it was going to go this well, because I was already really psyched about it, but it was just sort of like we both were job hunting when we started the show. And so it was uncertain whether this would be sort of something we did while we had the time, and then we'd just sort of stop once we were employed, or if this was going to become a longer term thing. And I wish I had had more of an inkling of how many people we would reach, and how we would hear back from a lot of those people telling us that the thing that we love and the thing that we make and we love to do has genuinely impacted them. And I wish that I had some sense of that. But I don't need a sense of that because I have it now. But I wish past me could have sort of seen how well this was going to go. Your turn.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I wish I had known before starting was that it is worth it to make transcription and other forms of accessibility, to make it a priority from the outset. That was something
rather than having to
we'd really
fix
like
a
to do that.
backlog.
But it's something that is really expensive, and
in terms of money
like,
and time, in terms of like labor.
And like at this point now that we have 4 years of content, it's really
Thank you,
hard.
OKPAN.
Yeah, it's really hard to push through all that. And
money and interns.
If we had made that, a priority from the outset, it would have been better. Like we would have reached more people. We would have reached the people we already reached more effectively, and
our Google SEO would be. Yeah, and I think to some extent because of the pandemic, sort of auto captioning and transcription things are it's really coming to the forefront how important those things are. And so my hope is that services start to be available that are less costly, and sort of that AI that processes the transcription, that's only going to get better. And so that's a good thing. But I wish that we had known to do that when we started, but also I wish that things had been farther along when we started. Yeah. But there you are. Thank you. Any advice for a small podcast on South Asian archaeology and anthropology to reach a wider audience? Do you want to come talk to us?
Yeah, I would say a great way to do it is to reach out to people like us, and like people who already have platforms. We got our first guests through our personal network, and also folks that are junior scholars, early career scholars, like somebody who is a graduate student or who is in a situation like a precarious employment situation, things like where people are, that they like want to share. They want to share their work. They want to get out there. They want to be more visible. They, those sorts of drives, and we want that too. And so finding those folks who are who seem amenable to talking, because not everyone, for a variety of reasons, some of which are good, is necessarily like open or available to talking to non-specialist audiences. And so just like finding folks that are open to it, and finding folks that want to do that, or have who have a particular like story that they want to tell, like maybe how they came to the field, they feel makes them unique, that they want to share. But the biggest piece of advice that I can give you is like, just keep doing it. And like, we started and we were really small, and like, and
The
and
more
we, like,
of your content
gradually
that there is to
grew.
find,
Yeah.
the more people will find it. It is the exhausting answer.
Yeah. And so it's just, over time, you sort of build momentum, and more people will find you, more people will share. But I think like, it's not zero sum.
And we've
like you building your platform does not mean I have less of a platform.
Yeah.
There are lots of shows that there are shows on our network. So look at the Archaeology Podcast Network, see if there are
Reach out
other
to those
like
guys,
shows that
yeah.
you want to talk to. And something that really helped us at the outset was the American Anthropological Association meeting was within commuting distance of where Anna was living. Well, Anna's in-laws lived. And sort of like how it is.
Family situation.
It's like
Yeah.
same state, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it was a low cost way for us to participate. And so what we did was we like emailed them and we're like, hey,
Can we make something?
Can we
for you?
work for you? Can we
Yeah.
do something? Can we create something for you so we can get in like at a reduced rate? And they were like, okay. And so
That's
that's
great.
something to so think about those sort of knowledge communities like in your subfield, like South Asian archaeology. Like there's like y'all got stuff going on.
Sure
And there's the meeting that's in Madison every year. Maybe that's like that may be an uncool place to be. I don't know. I attended it once. Just interpersonally uncool. I don't know. But like there are those places where people are like, the people come together, and that would be a great place for meeting folks, for having getting visibility, getting feedback.
It does mean you have to talk to people in real life, which is hard.
Yeah. But you don't want to do that much. And so it's just a way to like be seen and to meet people and to start to become known. And so people will recognize your name, the name of your show, and they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, they've been at that. And like that's a big part of it, is just hanging around.
And get some stickers printed, or like something, or cards that you can hand out so people have a physical reminder of the name of your thing that they can look up later.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is a show you're just working on, or if this is a show you have going already, but like something else that was really good for us is having a really clear idea of what you want to do, and like what you want the outcome to be. Like, have your goals be less about like the deliverables and more about sort of the legacy or the impact, because that way, if you know what you want to effect in the world, or in season 3, oh my gosh, so you're already around.
All right.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, like if you try to have this sense of like drive and sort of something that you're aspiring towards, as you sort of see what works, and like see what people like, what they respond to, what gets shared more, like what, like those sorts of things, those metric kind of things, you can find ways to lean into those successes without compromising the thing that you actually want to do. And that way you aren't like, oh, the thing I want to do doesn't work. Well, that's like the impact you want to have is something that you can achieve through a multitude of ways. And so I think focusing on that is is important and will also get you through the hard parts and the slogging.
Worth it.
Yeah. But yeah,
Thank
reach
you
out
so
to
much.
us. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Send us an email. We're very friendly people. We like hearing from
Yeah.
folks. Yeah. Well,
Anyone else? Oh, Kaylin's back. Okay.
Hi, Kaylin.
Out of the darkness.
Oh yeah, Akash, what's the name of your podcast for everyone so they can check it out?
It's called Chipping Away.
Chipping away.
Chipping away.
Chipping
Okay.
Away with an apostrophe.
Up chipping.
Chipping. Okay. It's fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
great.
absolutely. All right. Thank you everyone for Kaylin. I think we can stop the recording.